Good morning and welcome to the Rewind Show. Hashtag 186, take 2. And hopefully, he is there. Brent Peters at the Sports Bar Show. We got there, sir. We got there.
How are we doing? Okay.
Yeah, there was a problem. It was at my end, mate. It wasn't you.
So even technical support can underachieve.
Yeah, it was what it is. I've got several screens going up here at the moment that works all the software, and I had some interfering, which caused the problem. It caused it. It was coming back to me. It wasn't going out to the viewers. It was coming back to me, and it was causing a big problem. But we're here. We're here.
We're live and kicking.
How many shows have we done? We've probably done 400 in total. We do okay, don't we?
We do all right. We do all right from a lucky bag.
Yeah, two plastic cups and a piece of string, and we provide a show every week. How are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm okay.
Before we kick off, we both got a lovely message this morning, as always, giving us instructions and dishing out the orders from our lovely Jane Pallister. Have you got the message in front of you? I have. I've got a message saying.
Yeah, I've got the message. Right. Today is the Bake Up. Today is the Bake Up Family Centre Children's Party, and the reason that this Bake Up Family Centre Children's Party has come about, it is in conjunction with ourselves here at Bake Up Borough Football Club, and it's also in conjunction with Brisk, the full fibre broadband provider. They're a national broadband provider, and also Rosendale Borough Council. So the three of us, have I said that right? Yeah, Bake Up Borough. Brisk.
Yeah, we've got to say thank you to Sean Ferguson and Joanne Spencer.
Yeah, Sean Ferguson, they're from Brisk for providing the funding. And in addition, we would like to thank Rosendale Borough Council providing the grant for the Christmas decorations for this special event that will take place a little later on this morning in the sports bar.
Thank you very much indeed. Yeah, and apart from that, what kind of week have you had?
Same, different week, same old shit. Don't worry about that. Don't get me on that about being boring on that one. That's listen, that ship sailed. It's the time of the year. We're under pressure. Everybody's under pressure. The lads are doing a great job for Brent Peters Distribution. Every one of them, fantastic job. Because I mean, seriously, it is a job that this time of the year, the stress levels can be going off the scale, but they're holding themselves together. They're doing really, really well under adverse circumstances, and what they're doing as well. What I have to say, we're only probably a week, maybe a week and a half away, and then it'll flip the other way because it'll start to quieten off.
Yeah, coming into the ground yesterday, a lot of people were commenting on it. Because we've not had an home game for a few weeks and we've had a few postponements. The roof is looking spectacular, isn't it? The roof is on, and it's looking great, Brent. It's looking great.
It's fantastic. The lads that's come in and done that from over in Yorkshire. They've done a fantastic job. It's good. They've done really well and worked hard on it. We're really, really pleased with it, and now Alex McNulty's, who's key at, in his field in rendering. So he's now on with. He put some of the base coat on yesterday with the rendering, and then obviously he'll put the main coat on, and then from that the windows will go in. The window frames are already ordered and the doors, so they will be in, and then it's all about the internals. Things are moving now, and we can't wait. We can't wait to get it opened and up and running, because for several reasons. I mean, listen, it's just been a blinking. I've got to look on the positive side, but if I could turn the clock back and would I have done it with what's happened and what's gone on, would he have done it again? No, I wouldn't.
No.
Seriously, it's been been one almighty slog, and in a lot of ways, I mean, yeah, we've had some terrific help from the building fraternity that's like the merchants that's put things on, like Mark Bates, the concrete provider. They've helped us. They know it's a community club and a community project, and they've helped us. They've done really, really well. Obviously Croft did the groundwork. They've done well. People, they have tried and they have done well, but in the main, in terms of finding the money and for the project, it really has been. It hasn't been easy, and the thing is, you're trying to operate and keep the club going in its entirety without that being an extra burden, because we got the funding, we only got a percentage of the funding. It's gone off the scale really is what it's costing us, because the reason why is because it hit problems from day one about, like, obviously the piling, which obviously piled a load of extra finance on us.
But as you knew though, Brent, it seriously needed doing. We're not going to be, or you're not going to be around forever. And what you're leaving is a club which can then go forward for the next 20 or 30 years.
Well, yeah, I stand at the other side of the ground. When you stand, you don't appreciate it really until you really stand behind the goals at the Farm Avenue end. And then when you look across, you think, wow, that looks amazing.
It does.
And it does look amazing, I have to say.
And you can actually start now, even with a roof on, you can start to visualize what the end product's going to look like. And it's going to be attractive.
Oh, 100%. 100%. It'd be worth it. It's been, listen,
it's been an hard slog for you.
Oh, it's been horrendous. It's been horrendous. But listen, I like a challenge. I've had a challenge. It's been a challenge. I like a challenge. And, somebody said to me, I remember Peter Smith. And for those who don't know who Peter Smith is, he works for Sky, and he's a presenter for Sky Sports. And I remember many years ago when, after he came to the club to film the signing of David May, a few weeks after that, he rang me up and he says, I've got a question for you, Brent. Do you like a challenge? And I went, listen, mate, Bacup Borough's a challenge. So do I like a challenge? I think it's fair to say I do. So, and that's how we kind of, between us, we got Sid Parkinson, the MBE, with Her Majesty the Queen.
Well, you got a challenge the day you walked into that pub and saw Frank Manning sat there.
Yeah, exactly. So listen, it's just been the story of me. Like, it's a challenge, and it'll be great when it's. It'll be a weight off.
Go on. Sorry, you finish.
It'll be a weight off my. It'll be a weight off my shoulders when that's completed. It really will, and and I think we're seeing we're getting to the end now. We're getting on the final furlongs, I think.
I'm laughing because I was chatting to Jane yesterday. Jane Pallister, who's coming to the club. She's done a lot of work. She's worked in universities. She's been involved in marketing. She's worked for radio stations down in the Midlands. And she's come to the club, and we were talking, and I said, no, you've got lots to do, Jane. Why are you like kind of involved in this? And she goes, I love a challenge, Steve. And this is a challenge. And she's spot on. It is a challenge. It's a big challenge.
Yeah, it's spot on. It is 100%. And she's brilliant. She's been like listen, it's not easy.
She were there yesterday and she didn't need to be.
No. And she'll be here again today for this children's. She's good. She's brilliant. She's really good, and she knows how to approach people. She knows how to speak to people, and she's just got this warmth about her. And I just think
she's a great ambassador for the club out in the community, isn't she?
Yeah,
and further afield, because as you say, she can talk to the very top and the very bottom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she's good.
Let's move on to football, because that's what we're here for. Route One Rovers yesterday. Nail biting at the end. Joey Fallon, I don't know if he got his shoulder to it, his bum to it. It didn't matter. It were a goal. And we came away with a draw.
Yeah, well, listen. I say it all the time about football. You know, everybody wants to win games of football. That's what everybody strives for, to win games of football. You know, and I don't know how much you, other people, you know, away from watching the clubs, really take note of other teams, and you know, even in the big league. I mean, I had match of the day on last night, and you saw the Wolves Ipswich, was it Wolves Ipswich game? You know, and you saw it kicking off at the end and everything that went with that, and you know, because Wolves concede a last minute goal to Ipswich, and you know, the stakes are high and the emotions are high. Then you listen to interviews of managers, you know, like, you know, a lot of players, you know, certainly my players, could learn a lot from listening to the likes of, you know, I know he's got to prove himself over in this country. He's only just come over, but you can tell, you know, if you see Manchester United a few weeks ago, and they really didn't have an identity. You know, like you could drive about 3 double-decker buses through the team, you know, on counter attacks. Whereas now, at least, even if they don't get the positive result, even, you know, they didn't get the positive result in the end against Arsenal. But did I think they played well? Yeah, I did think they played well. You know, and this is what happens in football. You know, football is a game where you can either win the game, or you draw the game, or you lose the game. You know, and winning a game of football match is never a given. And it's been a breath of fresh air for me to witness. And this isn't, again, I'm repeating from what I've said in other shows, this isn't, the breath of fresh air is the fact that Manchester City, who's been the flag bearers for the last few years, you know, and have been leading the way, all of a sudden, the wheels come off and they're on a 6-game, you know, run where they haven't won a game of football, and the reason why I like that is because it's bringing home reality of football, is what I'm saying. It's not because I'm a red and I'm gloating on Man City. It's nothing to do with that. I'm not. I love Man City in terms of Pep. You know, I think he's great.
But it shows that even the good sides have frailties and can go through bad patches.
Correct, and it just brings the reality home all the time. You know, football is, you've not got to give, and you've got to work hard to win games of football, and you've got to be disciplined in terms of winning games of football. And, you know, some games, even I listened to an interview the other day, only a couple of days ago, the Liverpool manager, and he was bang on. You know, they'd been a breath of fresh air since the start of the season, and the guy, since he's took over from Klopp, he's been a breath of fresh air. His interviews and that, and everything's been really good. And he's turned round and he said, his exact words were, "I've loved the last few weeks and the fact that we're on this unbeaten run, but I wasn't happy with what I saw out there yesterday." This was in the European game. Yeah. He said, "I wasn't happy." He said, because we set our standards, we know we're in, and it's like they've kind of taken the foot off the gas, and I don't like that. Now, that is brilliant, because that brings me to Bacup Borough.
Yeah.
It brings me straight away to Bacup Borough, because we've seen a team and we've seen a group of players that, you know, I've gone on record as saying they're the special ones. And the reason why they've got that accolade of being the special ones, because they're a young bunch in the main. You know, you take your Gareth Wade, you probably Callum Hewitt, Gareth and Michael Gervin out of it. You know, they're relevantly young, maybe, well, even Toby, you know, but they're relevantly a young side. And, you know, we've given the title of the special ones now, or I have, because they produce special performances. And not only produce special performances, they've gone on and produced special performances with silverware at the end of it. You know, so they deserve that accolade. But when they raise the bar so high and they've done so well, I think because they set the standards like they have, when them standards drop, going back to the Liverpool manager's comments, when them standards drop, as a manager and as my coaching staff, and you know what they can do, and then you see things that they're kind of underachieving on and not doing, obviously, you know, things are said, and the players can't grasp that sometimes, even to the point yesterday. You know, did we think that you know, this is a collective, manager, coaches? Did we think that they played like they can play like the special ones yesterday? No, they didn't. No. You know, and you can't get away from that fact. Did we think that they played, you know, badly yesterday? No, by a long shot, they didn't play badly. You know, but there were certain aspects of the game that could have been better and should have been better. And there were frustrations that was happening. Like, say, for instance, the first half. You know, you look at the first half and you can turn around and see how much possession. If we had a possession marker up, I think it would be fair to say that the possession marker in the first 45 minutes, Bacup would have had most possession, but it failed at the final hurdle. It broke down at the final third. Now, you've got to ask yourself the question, if you're looking at a game, why is it breaking down at the final third? Why are we not executing that final bit of magic, you know, that final pass that opens the team up, that creates the space that allows our strikers to go in and finish? You know, that's what you've got to look at. Now, there are certain aspects of that, what I'm going to talk about here this morning on this show. One aspect which we're doing my absolute fruitcaking from kickoff, right? Now, don't forget, I've picked the team that I've picked for a reason. Joe Booth, for instance, you know, we know what he's got in his locker. He's a good lad, right? And he's enthusiastic, and he's like a breath of fresh air. He's got legs. He's mobile. He's slick, and he's got an eye for goal. But you can't have an eye for goal, and you can't be mobile, and you can't be slick when you're losing your footing.
No,
you know, and you analyse the game in the first 45 minutes, and you're watching it, and you think, as soon as we get into good positions where he's like got the ball into him, and then he's giving a little give and he's going, but then when he's going, he drops on the floor because he slipped, he's lost his footing. So the next thing that happens, the next player, which makes the next player look bad, and in this instance, I'll use Toby. So it makes Toby look bad because Toby's giving him the return, but he's obviously not there for the return because he's eating mud.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know, it's frustrating. You think, and we've given the ball away then, and then they're counter-attacking us. So we're having to defend it. And then we go again, and the same thing happens again. He loses his footing again. You know, and then you talk to somebody at full time, I think it was Brad Hancock, he said, and the coaches are laughing at him. Brad Hancock said, I never really saw him losing his footing. Well, what game's Brad Hancock watching? Because that's all what we're happening. I'd
like to know what boots he brought with him.
Well, exactly. And I've said to him, you know, I mean, to be fair to the lad, he had studs in, but there were short studs. That's short studs on that pitch. You need rugby studs.
Correct. That was going to churn up within a matter of 10 minutes, that pitch.
Correct.
And so this time of year, you're bringing 2 pairs of boots to a game, aren't you?
Well, you should be, and you've got to look. Your footwear, it's like anything. Your foot. What's the biggest attribute that a footballer has in his kit? Is it his shirt? No, it's not. Is it his Under Armour? No, it's not. You know, is it his shorts? No, it's not. Is it his socks? No, it's not. Is it his shin pads? No, it's not. The most important item that a player has is his boots.
Correct.
And that's why you've got to look after your boots, and you've got to make sure. I mean, I can go back in the day where players would come with another set of blinking, with a key and another set of studs, and start changing the blinking studs before a game.
Correct.
And put different studs in. Where's that all gone? Because you don't see that today.
No. But the Allen key, didn't we, to changing studs?
Correct. So the frustrating part is, and you start getting frustrated because the situation happens, you're building good attacks up and you're linking slick passing and moving and linking play, but But then it breaks down because somebody, a player, loses his footing, so we're a player down, and then they capitalise on that and break on us. So that was frustrating. That was really frustrating for me yesterday. And to be honest, that were, you know, at the start of the second half, and it was the start of the second half, you know, I'd already mentioned it at half time, and then there was and I've got it wrote down, the pen doesn't lie. I mean, he's not having it at full time. He's saying at full time, it's second half, he didn't slip. But I'm telling you, and I asked you off air, can you remember at the start of the second half, Joel Bruce slipping? And you said yes. Yeah, well, he did slip because I've got it here on my notes and I wrote it down immediately. It happened, right? He slipped again. And I thought, I'm not going through a 45 minutes. We're losing the game 1-0.
And that was the straw that brought the camel's back.
It was the straw that brought the camel's back. I thought, I'm not having it. You know, I'm not having it. It's breaking down. It's frustrating. So you look at your bench and, you know, it was a toss-up whether this player started or Joel started. I mean, we've got Connor Morris on the bench. And let's be honest, Connor Morris is a tidy player. He's a good player. He's an intelligent footballer. He's probably one of the most intelligent players in football terms, when you're talking football, that we've got in the changing room. He understands the game and he's an intelligent player. Now, you know, I'll be honest, he was named on the bench because Toby Wright, in my opinion, needs challenging.
Yeah.
And I think the person to challenge him, you know, we've tried Jack Haywood to challenge him. Jack Haywood's not challenging Toby Wright at the minute. You know, it's unfortunate, but he's not. You know, so the only player that we've lost Wonder Kid. So the only player to challenge Toby, in my eyes, who's capable of challenging Toby, you know, is Connor Morris, because Connor Morris came as a number 9. You know, he's got an eye for goal, as we've seen. He's slick on the ball. He's good at linking play up, and he links play up. So. And you know, obviously, as you know, the previous 2 games he's played, we've played him at the back, but he's come into the, you know, after the Desio game, we had to reconsider the squad and everything else. And you know, he's probably a tad unlucky he didn't start the game, but I felt that I thought it would have been a bit harsh to. I know I said I was critical of Joel at the Desio because I, you know, if I were a betting man, I would have said he'd been out the night before because he were a yard off the pace, and he kind of struggled against Desio, right, which we've not seen since he's come into the club. Oh. So that's why
he probably had credits in the bank then, didn't he? Really?
Yeah, he had credits in the bank, and I thought that it's harsh if I leave him completely out the team after one bad game. I'm not a manager that does that. Anybody can have a bad game, and he weren't going to come out the side, and he hasn't come out this. Let's be honest. Let's get this straight. He didn't come out the team yesterday because he were playing bad. He came out the team yesterday because he couldn't stay on his bleeding feet. You know, it was like watching blinking Bambi on ice. You know, it was just so frustrating. So going back to the Connor situation, it made sense because I felt he's a kind of a different type of a player. He'll hold his ground. He probably won't do little give and goes. He'll probably do more like, you know, not dynamic give and goes. Like Joel will do a dynamic give and go. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Whereas Connor might give a little give and go, but he won't be dynamic.
No, he's going to make sure that ball gets to its intended target with a
link. Yeah. So it's kind of different kind of players. So the decision was straight away, and it wasn't just my decision. I mean, before we even made it, I know it was close to half time, but even as, you know, Nigel on the touchline and Alan just behind the side of the dugout, we're all of the same opinion. You know, we need to get Connor on, right? So, you know, and I get the situation where, you know, it's always difficult when you make substitutions because sometimes the subs take a bit of time to get in the pace of the game. But the simple fact were, in possession, Connor did okay. He was linking. He was linking, and he were making things were sticking with him, and he wasn't falling on the floor, right? So we started to build a bit of momentum. Now then, I get it. When we give the ball away, we had a problem because Joel has legs and he can recover. Connor doesn't have the same legs, so he struggles to recover. You see where I'm coming from? But my argument to that is when somebody turns around and says we struggled, you know, it was a bit early because
we weren't creating chances. We
weren't creating chances. So at the end of the day, some change had to be made, whether it were too soon or not. It weren't too soon. With 45 minutes, I'd rather have 45 minutes where we can try and get back in the game and create chances than have like 15 minutes of trying to get back in the game and create chances.
And go flat.
But my point is, if they're counter-attacking on us, why are they counter-attacking on us? Because our ball retention isn't where it should be. If we didn't give the ball away, right, they wouldn't be able to counter on us. So players sometimes need to look at themselves again. Stop coming out with bleating like what I call is freaking just bleating crap. Because why have we lost ball retention? Why are they counter-attacking us? Because we've given them a ball. Not because they've won the ball. We've either put a pass behind somebody, we've put a pass too far in front of somebody, or we've been slipped on the floor and they've capitalised on it and they're coming at us.
I can understand why you made it, Brent, because like you said, we weren't creating the chances. We needed to ask more questions of Route One because their back four had arguably been tested. And it was no surprise that when you did make the changes, our best chance probably came from Brad Hancock doing an overlapping run from Kyle Siddle and hitting the crossbar.
Yeah, there were a few good chances in the second half, of good opportunities. And it was no doubt that we were knocking on the door. Now, obviously, people are going to look at question and say, well, they got out of jail because of the timing of the equalising goal. But come on, let's have it right. Let's just strip that back a little bit. We were creating chances before then.
We were squeezing them.
We were squeezing them. And I feel that if we'd have got that goal, what we got when we got it, right, I think we'd have, you know, there'd have been more to come. Now, that takes me back. Let's backtrack a little bit. Let's backtrack to the first half. So you look at the first half, the only item I had to say in the first half was this. And I'll try and repeat word for word what I said. This game, and don't forget, we were losing 1-0 at half-time. Now, you've got to analyse how that goal's come that we've lost. We should not have been losing by rights. But again, it comes to this. Ball retention again, right? Not holding the ball, not doing the right thing. So the ball's got... we've done some good playing. It's up at Kyle Siddle. Now, don't get me wrong. Kyle's had a good game for me, like he always has in every game that he plays. He'll even if he's not having the best of games, he will continue to keep working and think of an opportunity, you know, all the time. So this isn't having a slur at Kyle one bit, but it's a fact of the matter what happened. The ball's come up to Kyle. Kyle, in his wisdom, right, he's trying to do a very quick give and go. Right now, when he's laid it off, he hasn't connected right, and he's passed it basically straight to them.
Yeah,
right. It's happened. It happens. I mean, he could probably do that transition probably 10 times, and it'd probably get to its right destination 7 of them.
Yeah,
right. But
the surface didn't help the situation, did it?
Yeah, exactly. So, he's give the ball. So the ball, he's trying it. He's actually, but he didn't connect right, and he's give the ball away. From that, they've countered us, and from countering us, they've ripped us open and scored. Finished well, right? Give them credit. Finish well. So we go down, right? But we'll go down whichever which you can't say anything different from our possession. We had the ball.
Yeah.
We've got the ball.
As you said, ball retention.
So if that were a £50 note, would you reluctantly give it away like that? It's 50p. It's 50 quid at the end of the day. Or are you going to look after it better?
Well, you're going to look after it just like you do with the ball.
Correct. Right? But we did it. We give it away. And from giving it away, we've given them an opportunity. And from that opportunity, they're winning the game 1-0.
Yeah.
Now then, so we've got to work twice as hard to get back in it. Now then. So in the first half, when you come off at half-time and the scoreline is 1-0, I've only got one thing to say, basically. And it was happening, not just, you know, the easy thing is to nail Toby here, because obviously you think he's an old-up player, but it weren't just Toby. it were all the players that were playing at the top end of the pitch. So I'd say Joel, I'd say Toby, I'd say Alex, and I'd say Kyle. All guilty of this, trying to do the second move before they've actually got the first move under control.
Yeah.
Right? And because they were trying the second move before they got the first move under control, right, it ended up breaking down because we did neither and lost the ball. So it wasn't just Carl that were losing it. It wasn't just Alex that were losing it. It wasn't just Toby that was losing it. It wasn't just as a collective, they were all doing it. So it was easy to say, listen, and that's one of the reasons we didn't create chances. You've got to realise it's gone up to them. They've got the ball there, but then we've lost it for that reason. Trying to execute the second move and they haven't really controlled the first one. So it was easy for me to say at halftime, listen, you need to concentrate on killing the ball, being in control, then think about your second move, then think about your third move. What we're doing. The surface doesn't allow for that slick, quick passing, right? It doesn't allow for it.
No, it's got to be.
That's all I had to. That's all I had to say. And all I said then were, if we get this right, I'm confident there's enough in this and enough in this changing room to win the game.
Yes.
Then it was handed over to Nigel. Now I don't know what Nigel said because I went out of the changing room at that point because I wanted to go in the ref. I hope the league aren't listening to this because you're not supposed to go in, but they probably are, and it don't matter anyway because the referee. We had a nice conversation, so I went in and knocked on the door. I was invited in the referee's room, so I missed what Nigel had said to him. I was in the referee's room, and I was more concerned about the lines man up on that top side, right? Because there was some contentious, for me, decisions being made, especially the offside one when there was given goals between Alex Miller and Toby. It's never seen offside in a month of Sundays. It was a linking play, and he's give offside, right, which was looking absolutely ridiculous. So I needed to get that off my chest and go in and have a word about it. So I didn't know what Nigel had said from my part, what I'd said. But I was trying to be as positive as I could at half time. There was nothing really more to say other than it's breaking down at the top end of the pitch because we're thinking about our second move and we haven't even got our first one under control. Get that under control, then we can think about our second move, right? So then we're losing the game, but then we come out for the second half. Now, again, we're talking about creativity. And I think the first ball, this is from the we kind of started on the front foot in the first minute. The first attack, we started on the front foot and we got in, right? But then from that, there was an instance just after where Joel has gone down again, which he's adamant he didn't. But I spoke to you and you were adamant that he did. But the other one was Ellis Oren. Now, listen. If I've got to be perfectly honest, in the first half, I felt Ellis did all right. He didn't really do a lot wrong in a lot of respect. The only thing, if I've got to be critical of him, is I think he stayed more in his comfort zone than getting out of his comfort zone and, picking the baton up, and he kind of played as though he didn't want to, drive in. He kind of was playing like he didn't want to make a mistake and he wanted to be impressive. Well, he weren't unimpressive. He did all right. So I wouldn't knock him. He did okay. Would I contemplate starting next? Of course I would. He did all right. But there were times where he was making wrong decisions on his passing. And one situation with this, basically right on. And don't forget the competition on the bench. You've got Ben Thompson, who's a good technician. So it's not like you've got your captain, we've got Michael Gervin, who's a good technician. So there's no room for error when these lads get the shirt. There's no room for error because they're on the bench breathing down the throat.
You had plenty of options yesterday, didn't you?
There were plenty of options. So the thing is, he's got the ball, and I don't know what he's seen. But instead of staying on the ball, he's tried to do a pass up to the top side, and I don't know what he's seen because he's gone out for a throw-in. So again, we've given the ball away. So it comes to the situation, rightly or wrongly, as a manager, you go, fuck. You know, we're losing the fucking game. Excuse the French. We're losing the game. You get frustrated and you think he needs to come off. You can't. So basically, what I'm trying to say is the reasons behind them that double substitution at that point, right? We've got 40 minutes to try and get back in this game. We're losing the game 1-0. We've got good players on the bench, right? We've got players on the pitch that are good players, but in certain instances they're not upholding their responsibilities like they should be upholding, right? So the change were inevitable. Them two came off. I told you the reason why Joe came off, not because of his performances, but it were breaking down. Why were it breaking down? Because he couldn't stand up. He were like Bambi on ice. So that were frustrating me. And the fact of the matter is, you know, you got Ellis Oren, who's made, you know, he's made a couple of wrong decisions in the first half, which Nigel were on to him about. But equally, the one in the second half, he's just put it. I'm thinking, where's that going? It was just going to nobody. He's gone out to play at the top end. So he got brought off. Now, but the players who's replaced him, you know, I just think it's for the benefit. You've got Connor Morris that's come on, right? And you've got. It's not like you're bringing some blinking dead wood on. You've got Connor Morris that comes on, and you've got Michael Gervin that comes on. So it's not actually depleting your hand. If anything, it's maybe experience-wise strengthening your hand.
Yeah, it's giving you a bit more creativity.
Correct. And for me, we started to get on the ball. We started to create. We were doing all right. We were knocking on the door. A lot more were.
From my point of view, spectator, it certainly turned into a better spectacle. It was better to watch. And it was much more competitive.
I thought so. Yeah, it were an end-to-end game. We're still guilty at times of giving the ball away. And to be fair to Route One Rovers, one thing I'll say about Route One Rovers, they play on a 3G every other week, right? The nature of their majority of them stature. And what they are, they're Asians. You know as well as I know, Asian players are usually athletic.
They're athletes. They like cricket.
You know. Let's cut away from the chase. They're athletes, aren't they? They're athletes. They're fit lads. You know, this allometer, whatever it is, don't put them any weight on or anything.
They run all day,
listen, they run all day. Yeah, exactly. Right. So. And that's what they were up against. We were up against a team that never collectively stopped running. I've got to give them a lot of credit. I mean, obviously things got a bit heated on the game because there were some challenges going in that I thought were a bit naughty. They were high. They were having a go. And, they were a bit high. Then come on, ref, and all that situation. But come on, away from that, as a collective. They were athletic and they moved the ball quite well. And obviously they've got the lad, what's he called, back up front. They're all cans, aren't they, in my eyes?
Zachariah Khan.
Yeah, you know what I mean. So he's a very, very good player. So in all fairness, they put on a good show. They were decent and they worked hard. And in all fairness, did they deserve to lose that game? No, I'd say not just for the work rate and kind of belief that they had and how they worked hard for each other. Now, equally, do I think that we deserve to lose that game? Well, I'd say no, because I didn't think we played that bad. I think with levels to go, but I've just said the reason why I thought it were breaking down at the top end. If the top end didn't break down like it did, and the reasons why it did, I think we would have been. We know we're clinical when we get in, but you know what? You've got to give them a bit of credit because every time Toby, let's talk Toby. Every time Toby were around the ball, there were probably 3 players taking him wide. There were one instance where he was trying to tee it up for himself and get a shot off, and there's 3 players chaperoning him, and he ends up near the corner flag.
Well, they were waiting for him.
Yeah, so you've got to give them credit. But did I see him scoring? And did I see him this is me now. Did I see him scoring? Did I see him being a threat if we were disciplined? No, I didn't, because I just believe in my players. But again, this is where players have to be accountable. And again, why did we find ourselves chasing the game? We found ourselves chasing the game because we're building an head of steam up. We're getting giddy and we're building an head of steam up. Now, for me, and again, if they listen to that Ruben, right, at Man United that comes in here, he always talks about forward balls, forward balls, forward balls, forward balls. He never talks about square balls, right? He's always talking about forward balls. Now, we lost the ball and nobody will listen. They always look at what happened and how we've conceded. So I'll get 3/4 of the people on this show, I'll listen to this show today, wrote the game, and they'll be thinking, we conceded from a free kick. Well, yeah, but where did the free kick come from? That's where you've got to look. We had the ball. Let's get it right. We, Bacup Borough, had the ball. They didn't have the ball. We had the ball. So again, we come back to that £50 note. Are you going to give that ball away cheaply? Are you going to give that £50 note away cheaply? Or are you going to look after that £50 note because it'll buy your girlfriend a lovely present? So you're going to keep hold of that £50 note, right? So what do? The player in question plays a square ball. Sacrilege. I hate him. Outlaw. Shouldn't be playing square balls. But he's played a square ball. It got to his destination, but the destination player who it got to was on his heels. Probably didn't expect it. Lost the bloody ball. Who happened to be one of the subs I've put on. So he lost the ball. So we've done. So the two sacrileges we've done, we've played a square ball instead of a forward ball. The lad who were receiving it's lost it. The lad who's receiving's lost it and hasn't got a recovery running him.
No.
Because he's too slow. So that creates another problem. They're athletic and they're breaking. So what do we do for the team? Somebody gives a free kick away. And it's from that free kick that we concede. And they did exactly what Nigel said they'd do in his pre-match analyse of Route One Rovers.
Yeah, they play short balls. They don't put the ball into the...
They don't put the ball in. They play give and short balls. And they freaking ripped us on it. Stood off them. And the lads finished it really, really well. So we're chasing again. So the point I'll stop here on this show, why are we, irrespective of everything else that's gone on in the game, we could have been the best team on that pitch for the duration of that game to that time of that ball going in the net. We could have been the best team. We could have been it could have been constant pressure from Bacup Borough. Constant. But when we do them decisions and make them decision making there, right, irrespective of all the pressure you've done, irrespective of all the blinking, you've picked the baton up and you've ran with them and you've took the game to them. But we found ourselves behind.
Yeah.
So you've got to question, not when the coaches are turning around at full time and saying, I kind of think that we were a lot better than that and poor or whatever. And then players are reacting, I thought we played well. Well, how can you say that we've played well when I've just explained how we had the ball and we've actually given the ball away? Not once, but twice we've made a wrong decision with the player that's had the ball at his feet.
And now we're chasing trying to rescue a point.
And he's played an inside ball that shouldn't have been happening. He should have tried to either keep on the ball or make a forward pass. But he's given inside ball. The person receiving the ball doesn't receive it. He's on his back foot. We lose possession cheaply. They break on us because they're now capitalising on us. They're running at us. The player who's just lost the ball is now trying to recover, but he hasn't got a recovery running him because he's not as dynamic and sharp as they are. So he's struggling to get back in. The player who's give the square ball, he's then trying to get back in. So we've now got two players trying to get back in. They've got overloads. We end up giving a blinking free kick away and we don't defend the free kick. Now, I define anybody to turn around at that point and say...
That's good.
That's good. You get me?
Yeah.
And this is the crap you're listening to in the changing room at full time. Because they think, well, we've done well. Come on, let's have it right. We've done well. But hang on, we should surely, as a team that's aspiring to try and be challenging, you cannot give freaking goals away like that.
No.
And if you analyse the first goal, you cannot give goals away like that.
No.
And don't forget the position on the pitch where we've give both goals away are around the halfway line.
Spot on, Brent. Spot on.
So then we find ourselves chasing again. What we shouldn't have been chasing. We should have been comfortable in playing it and just waiting for the opportunity to come and we finish it and win the game.
But when we scored the equaliser, got the goal back, which I believe was Brady Bowman's, not Toby Wright's. I'm sure it was. You wrote that down on your pad.
I've got it as Brady, but I heard the conversation in the changing room because Toby's trying to claim it because he's saying it come off him. No, I'm not getting in them debates. I haven't got a clue.
But anyway, when they scored that, I thought at this point, get the game by the scruff of the neck, we'll go on and win it. Because it looked that way. We had the momentum, we were driving forward. As we said, Brad hit the crossbar, there was opportunities, Carl were getting forward. It looked like it were only going in one direction. And then we're chasing the game because we conceded that goal.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the frustrating part. And that's what I mean, and there were several others. And then from that situation, we kind of like start then not being composed. Like, for instance, I'll give you an instance. Ben Langley's in a great position, gets the ball forward. There's no probably better deliverer of the ball. Well, obviously Ben Thompson he's a good deliverer. In fact, I think he took the corner for the goal that we it was Joey Fallon that got the equalising goal.
But Ben can put a good ball into the box.
But Ben can put a good ball in. So what he's seen and what he's getting giddy, he's tried to blinking shoot from a ridiculous place, and the ball's still travelling over to blinking Toberny now. It's because then we start making bad decisions.
Yeah, and rushing things.
Because it's like the mind goes blank because they're trying to get back into it. So, so then it starts to get goes back to get into a bit kind of rat shitty. It's not right. Whereas when we're calm, collected, composed, and we do it, there's nobody better than us, right? So my point being, did I think we played badly? Not a chance we played badly. Did I think we played really well? No, we didn't play really well. There was decisions made in that game that were bad decisions. Our ball retention in that game at times was quite poor. Right, and that was allowing them, when we give the ball away because we put a pass either over it or under it or put it too far away from the player that it's meant to be, and he's got to check where he's placed, right, and he's kind of losing his footing or whatever, and we give the ball away because they're coming at us like a swarm of bees, right? Then at the end of the day, you can't say it's bake up Borough at their best. It isn't, because we're gifting them, we've got to look after the ball better, and that was the only thing that was wrong for me. We've made bad decisions, and to be fair to Route One, to be fair, twice we've made bad decisions and twice they've capitalised on it.
Yeah.
So
good assessment.
It is what it is, and we're thankful of a point. It's a point, it's not three, and but you've got to understand as well, there's always two sides, there's always two teams, and they're down at the wrong end of the table and the reason why they're wrong end of the table, they lost a very, very good player at the start of the season, a very, very good player.
Yeah, and now he's back.
So they'll start to be a force to be reckoned with, because it's surprising how one player can make a whole difference, especially, the caliber of player he is.
Yeah.
And that's why it'll be no surprise that they will, they'll rattle a few teams, because do I think they're a good side? Yeah, I do think they're a good side. And the one thing that's good about them, there's a big togetherness with them. You know, there's a big togetherness with them, and you know they're all in it together. And it's like it's probably that siege mentality. It's them again. It's like the whole world against us. And you know they keep working and they work to the end. But I've got to pick up on another thing here. You know, it's something that Nigel just touched on and said that you know, this time last year as a team, this is where this was the period we started to fail on last year. Yeah. But I've analysed that and thinking about it, and he's not wrong. He's exactly right. But do you know what? And I'm not making excuses. I think the freaking FA, coupled with the league, and the way they conduct the fixtures, it's a shambles. I'm sorry, but it's a shambles. It's a disgrace. You know, you've got your Premier League you've got your Premier League. You know, if you're playing in the Premier League, you're absolutely out on your freaking feet because you're playing twice a week all the way through. There's no respite. You have to play twice a week. I've got full credit for the Premier League teams because they're playing twice a week. They have to do because there's 24 teams in the bloody league. Yeah. So they've got to play twice a week. They can't, and there's a deadline. Nobody can predict when the weather's going to kick in and how bad the weather is, right? Now everybody's saying our pitch is looking good and everything yesterday, and it is looking good, and it is for the time of year. It's absolutely brilliant. But in all fairness, it's not getting the test that it really should be having because we should be playing twice a week. But we can't. If we played twice a week, the season, because there's only 18 teams in us, we'd be finished in blinking January, right? The season would be up. So my point being, the pitch isn't getting. I mean, this morning there should have been 2 games on there. There should have been a game. Our under-16 should have been playing on it at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. And then there should have been Old Rochdalians playing a team from Grimsby in a very important FA kind of equivalent to FA Vase on Sunday. But unfortunately, because we played on it yesterday and it's cut up and it's blinking rained all night, I've had to pull it today. I've had to pull them 2 games. And really, I know Rochdalians will be like probably gutted now because they've give home advantage away because now they've got to go to Grimsby. But I'm as gutted because in that cellar, I've got blinking I've probably spent £2,000 more than I need to spend on alcohol, right? Yeah. Because on the pretense that game's going to go ahead and there's going to be quite a few on. Mm. But now I've left with over £2,000 worth of stock in my cellar that I wouldn't normally need. And that's gone as well. But I'm not crying over that. I'm just trying to make points. No, I know. Right? But the situation is the leagues and the FA. We're in a competition that's like. I just think, you know, sometimes I think is it worth it? Because if you think about this time last year, same thing happened last year with us. We'd gone weeks with no fixture. And if you remember, I think we played Southport and we played them at end of January or something like that. Yeah. And leading up to it, we hadn't even had a game. There were no games in the
7 or 8. I think there were about, I don't know if it were about 5 or 6 weeks we had a game.
Exactly. And then we had to go to Southport and try and put in a performance at Southport, right?
Yeah, on a Tuesday night.
Credit to the lads, 45 minutes, 50 minutes. We more than held our own. But then it took its toll on us. Now, equally, if we look at where we are now, it's a freaking bitty season. Yeah. You know, that's our first game. We didn't put so let's be honest. Prior to the Daisy Hill game, and this isn't excuses, this is fact. Prior to the Daisy Hill game, right, we've ended up where we had 2 games with no fixture, 2 weeks with no fixture.
Yeah.
We then ended up with a game that's got called off, which nobody can help, which was away at Thornton Cleveley's. So with 3 weeks where we've had no fixture, right? 3 weeks we've had no fixture. And then obviously we come into that Route One game at home. We didn't play last week, right? So we played the week before. But the week before the Daisy Hill game, we didn't play again. And then the week before, then we played. And then the week before that, we didn't play again.
No.
Right? Now, I've got to question this. I've got to question the fixture planner, and I've already wrote an email into the Northwest Counties, and I sympathise with the Northwest Counties because they're trying to say, listen, it's not just about Bacup. We've got to balance the fixtures everywhere because, there's teams that are ground sharing with other teams, and we've got to work fixtures in and out. Well, you know what I'd say? If a team has to ground share, they shouldn't be in the freaking league because it's not. Again, we're back to this. Why are you not ground? It's not an equal playing field. Stop blinking. If they haven't got their own facilities, why let them ground share? Because that's throwing blinking fixture list all over because they can't put a fixture list in because, hang on, they can't. Cheriton, for instance, can't play at Avro because Avro have got a game on that day. So we have to move that fixture. So we have to put them at Gig Lane because their pitch isn't ready yet or all that. Yeah, but that's not... And it has a knock-on effect through all the league. And you're thinking, well, why has it got a knock-on effect for all the league? So what I'm saying is, when you're telling me that we don't look consistent and we're not consistent and we're scrappy and we're bitter, and then my coach might say, we're scrappy and we're bitter, I sometimes have to...
There's a reason why.
I have to come back and I think about it and I'd pull it all back and I think, you know what? You're not wrong what you're saying, Nigel, and you're not wrong what you're saying, but there's a reason I've got to defend the lads a little bit here because we're not playing.
No,
we can't get any momentum. We can't be fluent.
And same again, we're not playing till AFC Blackpool.
Correct. There's no game again next week. So how's that? It's madness. It's absolute madness. And you can train all you want, but training's not the same as playing.
No.
So, we can look at what happened last season and throw pelters at the lads and say you've blinking failed. But hang on, I think about it and I think, hang on, I've got to give them some fucking slack here because I don't really do think they blinking, it was no fault of their own, and it's not like you can go and arrange a friendly because nearly everybody else are playing. So I just think the blinking setup, really, and nobody questions the FA because they're a lawn to themselves. They're a freaking absolute freaking lawn to themselves. I have to be careful what I say because it winds me up, right? They're not answerable to anybody, right? Well, you finish on this date. So the league have to go for it. I get that. But then it doesn't help matters when they're sorting fixtures out because no team should be like that blinking we are in a situation, especially when, you're on the peripheral of trying to get promotion or however you're trying to do it, and then you're not playing every week. You've got blinking gaps in your calendar, and it's not fluent. And then they're putting cup matches in when they're putting cup matches in, and because you're knocked out the cup, you've got no league fixture. It's like madness. Just let the league fixtures go. Put the cup matches on after the deadline of the blinking FA when the league wants it. When the FA say the league's got to finish, put the cup matches in then, or the latter rounds, because it doesn't matter. But at the minute, I look at it from a point of view when I look at it, and in defence of my lads, right. I am not having it that they're losing the momentum because of themselves. I think it's the circumstances, and it's happened the second year running where we've been forced into this situation.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like there is a lack of consistency, and that's and the fact that there's no momentum because you're having a game and then you're missing a week. And as you said, games and training, totally different.
100%. 100%. It is, and it's so frustrating, and that's why I've ripped it back and looked at it. He made a valid point. Now, I'm not saying he didn't make a valid point. Yeah, we did come off the gas at this time last year. But in a lot of ways, when you look at the reason why we'd come off the gas is what I've just explained. And the simple fact is, this time, it's happening again, the same deja vu. I sent an email in a couple of weeks, and all I get is from John Deal, and I love John Deal to bits. But he goes on the defensive then, and he tries to throw loads of stuff in, looking at it from a league point of view. I sympathise with it. I really, really do. But this blinking ground sharing, and Isle of Man, that's another one they throw in. Oh, well, we've had to cancel that because the bloody fog's on the island. So they can't. Well, don't let them in. It's a geographical blinking idiots. It's logistically mad.
Yeah.
Don't let him in because it has a knock-on effect. Tell the FA why. The FA is just doing it because they think, oh, it's a kudos. It's thinking this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
You know, if they've got an issue, let them go and play in a Gibraltar League or something like that. And thinking because it thinking
an island hopping league.
An island hopping
the Shetland Islands.
Correct. Just don't have us in the blinking thing. Oh, well, the game's got to kick off, Paul, but it can't kick off because... Yeah. And then we've had situations where we're at Bury, they're freaking flying around and then they have to go back to blinking, it has to land at Liverpool and all the guys are at Manchester.
But as you say, that's one team wrecking it for another 20 or so.
Don't make sense. Don't make sense. But that's not the league. That's the bleeding FA.
Yeah. I want to get a little bit lighter conversation for a few minutes. I want to mention this chap, club historian, author, Roger Hindle. The new book's out. He was at the club yesterday, Brent, selling the new book. £20, I believe. 330 pages. 1979 through to 2024. Another brilliant achievement from Roger.
Oh, his first book was quality, and obviously I haven't seen this one yet, but this will be equally. Equally. I mean, he's fantastic. He's Roger. I mean, he's got everything at his fingertips. If you want to know anything about the history of Bacup Borough, he's the man. You know, many a time I get questioned, and people send me an email and ask this, and I just forward it to Roger, and Roger finds the answer. He's a truly amazing man. And we're thankful to have him here as a historian. It was me that gave him that title. But I have to laugh about the book because the book will be tremendous and it won't tell lies. But when he was in here the other day with it, and he called in, my trusted mate Simon Holding was in at the time, and his eyes lit up. Oh, hey, Roger, he stands with him on terrace. He says, hey, Roger. Oh, yeah, this book, I can't wait. Am I in it? So I'm sat over at the other side of the room. I went, why would you be in that book? He's gone, what do you mean why would I be? Now, hear me out here. This is a lad that actually was a striker for Bacup Borough back in the day.
Yeah,
good striker. Very good one. Led the line, scored goals. I'm not knocking for that. I loved him. When I had him, I were in the reserves at Rosendale, and I loved it when he kept getting left out because the competition was tough at Rosendale, and sometimes they'd be getting left out of the first team because there were obviously other players ahead of him in the first team at Rosendale. And I loved it when he came down and played for the reserves for me because he was an honest lad, an honest player. Did a really good job leading the line. Mobile, athletic, got hold of it, competed. A bit like your Andy Lockhead back in the day.
Yeah.
He was good. He was good, but listen, I hope he's not listening because his head will be going through the roof, right? But he's saying to me, I said, why would you be in this book, Simon? He's gone, that team that we had at Bacup at the time, and he's rubbing his hands, that team we had at Bacup at the time were fantastic. I went, were they? I said, well, it's funny that team you had at Bacup at the time, that when we won the league championship, it ended up with the headlines in the local newspaper, and no doubt it'll be in Roger's book, ending 56 year of hurt. So where were that team then, Simon?
Yeah, you'd done jack shit when you were playing for him.
Yeah,
that soon shut him up.
Well, yeah, drop the mic.
Drop the mic and walk out back door.
Yeah. But seriously, no. I mean, listen, even before my time here, there were some good lads here at Bacup. I have to say that. I have to say, not more than, like Sean Coleman, which Danny Coleman, who's played for me at Bacup, but he still comes in the club now. He supports us. His dad were a good player, very, very, very good player in his time. There's plenty. John Loney, Graham Crowther. Good. Very, very good. Very, very good lads. George Clayton, the goalkeeper. you know, there were a lot of good players. You know, I mean, football's football. You don't always get the breaks you deserve in the game. And
I'm sure it's all in the book. All the details are on there. You can send all the details are on the social media pages. So if you go on the social media, you'll find Roger's email address. His phone number's on there as well. If you want to give him a call, you can do that. He's left his number there. £20, 330 pages, and a brilliant stocking filler in time for Christmas. So, yeah, go and support Roger because he's put a lot of time and effort into doing that. So, yeah, wish him well.
Where he has, yeah. Where's my book? Thinking it's sailing down River Irwell, I've heard.
I got to chapter 1 and got bored. We'll get there. British Rail. Thing is, your book was going to be a bloody masterpiece because some of the stories you could tell. Trips away to the Isle of Man and other exotic places. I was talking about something this morning to you, Brent. Before I came on, I was watching an interview with Ian Holloway. Interesting chap as he is. You know, old school, pretty much like yourself. Been quite successful. He's successful at Blackpool, taking him to the Premier. He's now doing a really difficult job at Swindon Town. And yesterday at the game, they had travelling support. I'm not sure what the score was, but I think it was a difficult afternoon for him. And he's got into a bit of a conversation with the supporters about being negative towards the players. And he's standing up for the players. And I just thought, you know, what's your thoughts on that? Because I know you've had that kind of situation, you know, thrown on you in the past.
Yeah, I he's a man of my own art. I mean, because the beauty of non-league. I mean, obviously Ian's not in non-league, but obviously if the supporters are near to the touchline and he can go and have words with him and speak to him, then albeit, because there's always reasons. What supporters, and listen, it's everywhere. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody will say, you know, what they do, you see it everywhere, right? Let's take Bacup for an instance. I'll just use Bacup, right? You'll get some people that support or say they support the club. They come and take an interest because there's a player playing at the club that they're close to, or they can respond to, and the player will talk to them. So, as a lot of people are in this wide world we live in, it's two-faced. There's a lot of people two-faced. I can't handle two-faced people. You know, I've said it before. If I don't like somebody and they're in my, I'll tell them. Listen, I'm not being disrespectful, but I don't really care for you. You know, that's just me. And my opinion is really this, because I kind of don't trust you, because I think behind my back or behind somebody's back you'll stab them. You know, and I can't do with people like that. You've got to be upfront and answerable. And I think that there's people that will go along and, you know, they'll listen to what the player has to say, and if the player's got an opinion, which the players do have an opinion, instead of forming their own opinion, they will go along with the player. And that's how the bong drums start. Well, he doesn't like him, or he doesn't like him, or he shouldn't have made that substitution. Even Johnny Reggie turns around and says he shouldn't have made that substitution at that time, or he's made that substitution, it was too early. Yeah, I get it was too early. You know, they don't form their own opinion and look at the bigger picture.
Yeah, they tend to side.
And they tend to side with them people. Now, the issue that I look at is that it's one man down there on the sideline, and that one man, obviously, he's got his support staff, his coaches, and the coaches will liaise and will talk, and they're watching the game. And they have to make a decision for the right reasons. Whatever that decision may be, it's for the right reasons. Like take yesterday, I made a big decision because, you know, Joey Fallon hadn't been feeling well, and I wanted him, and he hadn't been feeling well all week, and he's under a bit of pressure at the minute. He's Joey Fallon because of his job, because, as we know, he's an accountant, and his job's all mine thing. And at this time of year, I can't even get hold of my accountant because they're all. I wanted him to return my call, and he doesn't return my call because he's bogged down with work on terms of getting everybody's texts end of year tax files in. So they're under a lot of pressure. And sometimes you can be a bit run down. So I made as a manager, I've made a conscious, listen, I'll leave it until the last minute and let's see how you are. And then I made the decision about Joey Fallon. I made the decision that look, we've got enough here. You know,
you got Gareth.
I'm gonna leave, but I will guarantee that there will be people in this building yesterday looked at the team sheet without knowing the whys and wherefore. What, the Winkins, he lost his marbles. He's been our best defender this year. He's left him on the bleeding bench. What's he doing? You know, they haven't got a clue.
No.
But as a manager, I've got to make these decisions for the right reasons, what I believe to be the right reasons. So it's like, when I come to making decisions in terms of even at the sideline, like, you know, making the substitutions like we did at the time we did, it wasn't just me that's made that decision or agreed to that decision. There's been a body of people, my support staff have all agreed, yeah, we need to do it. So it got done. Now, you can imagine, away from here, the player who thinks that shouldn't have been done at that time will probably be down in Blinking Valley Arms down road, blurting out after a few pints and then saying to somebody, I don't think he should have made them. It was too early, ridiculous. We were on the back foot. So then people get the wrong end of the stick and think, oh, they're on the back foot. Well, he's made a wrong decision there. He shouldn't have done that. So then they come to the next match and then they start throwing pelters at the manager and saying, why have you made that decision? So coming back to your Ian Holloway, there is reasons why decisions are made, right? And I can remember going back in time here at Baycut. Remember, this is when I first came here. We had no money. We had nothing. I'm trying to get a team together and build a team. And it ended up where I built a team with some experienced lads, and I built a team with round them were some inexperienced lads, players of the ilk of Paul Wayne. Now, the local people around Rosendale will know about Paul Wayne. You know, Nicky Taylor, fantastic, went on to be an absolute gem. Fantastic little player, Nicky Taylor. Still holds the accolade of the Northwest Counties League Player of the Year back-to-back years, right? You know, but I had him as a 16, 17-year-old. So Nicky Taylor was the same age as our Martin Peters. So I had Martin Peters in at the same age, 16, 17 years of age. I had like Paul Wayne in 16, 17 years of age. You know, these are three lads, just to name three lads. You know, there's been others, but there's three lads that come to top of them. And we're playing, and we're, you know, and these lead lads need bringing on. The youth players, you know, they need helping and bringing on. And I'd be sat in the dugout down there, and I'd hear somebody with a loud voice up the top end of the pitch shouting, get him off, his son, he can't even hold a paper bag up, he's useless, get him off. And I'd hear it because the only other people you'd hear on the ground at that time is bloody sheep buying. So it rather sheep going, bah, bah, and you get this freaking clown. And I'm not going to mention no names because he's still, you know, he don't go on right well now anyway. So, and I hope he's all right, you know. But he'd be going, I can't hold a paper bag up. So eventually I had enough and I walked round and stood between him and another supporter, and I went, listen,
have a little chat with him.
Just chill out. Listen, if you don't like it, don't pay your money and come on. Now, I'm one of these people where you probably get Simon Olding who'll turn, don't say that to them, they won't pay the money and come on. Listen, I'd sooner lose £6, right, and have the right people on here, right, than freaking taking £6 and I'm absolutely destroying a potential up-and-coming footballer.
And I think that's exactly what Ian Holloway was saying. If you're going to be negative, you're no good to us, mate. We're fighting for his lives. We don't need people like you here.
Correct. 100%. I haven't heard it, Steve, but I'm...
Yeah, go and watch it, because I think there's a few people who are kind of against it, but there are people who are supporting because he's right in what he's saying.
100%.
You know, he 100%. Took over that job. He took over that job. They linger, you know, down the bottom of the table. They're fighting for their lives. And what he's thinking, he doesn't need negative people in the building.
No. Not at all.
And
Not at all.
you're the same. You said I can't do it being around negative people.
I can't. No chance. Listen, on that front, a negative person has a what's the saying? A negative person has a finds a problem for every solution.
Well, yeah.
And it's true. And I can't. Somebody's negative around me, I freaking lose it massively. I can't handle it because I'm very positive. And even sometimes on my team selection, as you're saying, I have taken chances, and I think managers, you have to take chances, and I've taken chances. It could come back to bite my bum, and sometimes it has come back to bite my bum, and then other times it hasn't. That's the luck of the draw. But listen, whatever I do and whatever I'd like to think, whatever any manager does in his position, he's doing it for the best interest. Don't forget, managers are there with the players all the time, and it's to the best interest of the team and the club. And that's why
I think in the main, Brent, you say that, and I've been there 5 years now. I think in the main, you've got I think you've got a decent percentage of things coming out on top rather than biting you on the bum over time.
I do, and I think that comes down to in fairness, that comes down to, look, it's all about experience, and you can't beat experience. I mean, and again, I come back to this. I'm experienced, and I've learned my trade, from a lot of good people back in the day. I've rhymed them off on here before. So you take bits of what you've learnt from them and around them, and then you put your own.
Is it kind of reading a situation or a scenario that you've experienced before and thinking, I'm not having that, and it's kind of a gut instinct rather than the brain? It comes from in here, and you just do it because you don't mess around on sideline. If you're making a decision, it's sometimes done before your assistant even knows it's happened.
Yeah, because again, that comes down to, sometimes I'll get a whisper in my ear and say, "Oh, well, that's not happening." You don't, because I think sometimes what people do, the habit of doing is making, like, what I class as wrong decisions and under panic, and you can't do that. You've got, it's like yesterday, for instance, because yeah, everybody wants to win, but it got muted to me at one point about maybe going 3 at the back, and I threw it straight out of the water. We're not going 3 at the back with these. That's not happening. It's not happening. I'll stay with 4 at the back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'll make that decision straight away because there's times, I mean, it comes back to the timing of that. I made the decision yesterday about, just after 5 minutes into the second half, about the 2 lads that took off. And it's all right, a player who's playing the game, that's involved in the game, trying to make seeing what's happening, that when we haven't got the ball, the 2 lads who's replaced those lads that's come off haven't got the same legs chasing back as them lads. Now, I get that, but from the flip side of that, that's only come about since our ball retention giving the way. But on the flip side of that, holding the ball up and being a bit more creative is what they brought to the table. Don't forget, when I made that substitution, right, or we made that substitution, we was losing the game at that point 1-0.
Yeah,
and we've ended up.
And I don't think we had many shots on goal before that happened.
Exactly, and it's the same. And then we've conceded another goal, but still got back into it. Yeah, it may be on the time he blew up not long after, and you might think you're a bit lucky on the timing. I get that, but in the main, it's just you just sometimes it's like not making rash substitutions. Like I'll say, sometimes it's not a game to make subs. It's a tight game. I don't really want to go back to the Droylsden game at Droylsden. I really enjoyed that game, to be fair, at Droylsden.
One of my
really enjoyed it because, I just enjoyed it because the surrounds, it just reminded me back in the day when I were in a football league ground and we're a good fan base there, and it were an important match.
For me, Brent, that game at Droylsden, I think it was my favourite game of the season because I really saw the character of the players.
Yeah, and it had to be managed. I think going back, he would dog it, and it had to be managed. And there's games where you don't want to really make, unless they're forced substitutions, you don't really want to make them because, again, they do struggle sometimes. There's some players picking the pace of the game up straight away, and it can create an issue. You're better off going where you're trusted that's on the pitch.
Yeah.
So it's not always on to make them substitutions. But another thing that comes back to the experience is like what I did last week. Not showing my hand because of circumstances. I kind of knew I were probably 95% certain the game at Thornton Cleveland's were going to go.
Yeah.
And they weren't giving me no indication on the Friday night. So I could have easily showed my hand for the Saturday. But I felt I'm not doing. I'll wait till Saturday morning, because if I show my hands Friday night, I'm going to show a different hand the next week. It's what I'm trying to say. And then you get players coming, well, hang on, I didn't play last week and I've been dropped from the bench. So you try to eliminate them situations by doing what you do. But again, that's just me, and that just comes with the experience that I've done all the time. I'm not saying, but these guys who's around me, I just think they'll do their own thing when I'm long gone. Wherever they go in football, they'll do their own things. But I'd like to think there'll be certain things that they'll have picked up what I've done that they'll keep and add to their.
Yeah. I think it's the same in all walks of life, isn't it? You learn from predecessors and people who you've been around, and hopefully they do rub off on you whether you like it or not.
Yeah, I mean, I read all this. I mean, the papers don't do any good. I read all this about Wayne Rooney. He's gone in and what's he done here and what's he done there. Listen, let's get one thing straight. Wayne Rooney, as a manager, has got not as a manager who's got vast experience, but he's got vast experience in the game. He's played under one of the greatest managers, of all time. He will have a lot of what he did in him, in his DNA. He's got to have, right? And before that, he's been brought up like with David Moyes, another good guy and another experienced guy. So when he goes into a football, like he's gone into, the reason why clubs like, you think about the geographical location of blinking Portsmouth, right? It's right down on that blinking section. Plymouth. Sorry. It's right down on that blinking.
Well, you can't get any further.
You can't get any further. So the thing is, it's like attracting players to start with will be a nightmare down there, right?
Yeah.
He's got that job because other managers have failed. Yeah. Now he wants to break into football management, right? And I've got the utmost respect for Wayne Rooney or anybody else that wants to throw his head in the oven.
Yeah.
Because the people who chat have never done it and never tried to do it. And Wayne Rooney has attempted it at Derby, obviously, but he's obviously gone in there and he's attempting it down there, which is a thankless job. Now, the best thing I've seen this week is probably he's bringing Phelan in with him. Yeah. Obviously, another Manchester United connection. Now, Phelan will be the coach. He can't manage and coach at the same time. It's two different. I keep saying it's two different jobs. So straight away ticks a box for me because he's now bringing a coach.
And Phelan's not a manager anyway, as we know.
And Phelan's not a manager, 100%. So it doesn't. But with the tools that they've got, which must be hard and must be difficult because of the geographical location, it's like back in the day. Barrow were exactly the same, and all you think about Barrow. There's one road in, one road out. You're up there.
You couldn't recruit.
It's not a place where you can recruit. Workington, another place. It's out in sticks.
Yeah,
it's difficult. So it doesn't mean to say if you take the manager's job at Workington and you're failing at Workington that you're a bad manager. It doesn't mean that. It just means that you've gone in there, you've shoved your head in the oven, you've tried your best, you've suddenly realised it's not the best place to get to recruit into, so you're struggling to get players, right? So you've got to try and achieve what you can achieve with the players that you've got. And it might fail. But that don't make you a bad manager, and that's what I'm saying about Rooney down there. It's not going to make him a bad manager, but at least he's putting himself in there. But the press, every day you pick something up, bad result for Rooney. Rooney's going to get sacked. Rooney's going to get this. Hold on, Lee, give him a bit of breathing space because he's operating under difficult circumstances. Are they going to say the same for this Rubin at Man United? Because let's be honest, he's got the same share of shit as everybody else has had, but at least he's trying to do something with them until he can get his own window, his own transfer window in and get his own players in. But until he can get his own players in and work with the shape that he wants, he's got to understand these players and he's got to get the best out of the players he's got. Now, he might, until he can get his own players in, result-wise, he might fail. But does that make him a bad coach or a bad manager? It doesn't. And this is what I mean. You've got to look at the circumstances. You've got to look at everything. And it's like Frank Lampard going in at Coventry. I think that's a good move for him going in at Coventry. Although it's a bit of a freaking bad one that it's happened to Mark Robins because Mark Robins has done really well there. Oh, yeah. Right? I get that. But if the chairman thinks that for whatever reason we need a change of direction, that's his prerogative. Now, I don't think it's been a bad appointment because I even said he was one of them who I'd have put in the frame with, what's he called at Burnley?
With Scott Parker at the time.
Scott Parker, he was one of them that were in there and I'm glad he got it. Now, obviously, this is another thing, you see. Burnley fans will be going mad about him at the minute, but he's kind of organising his teams to be hard to beat and not beat, but they're not scoring.
Well, I feel on that Scott Parker situation, I feel sorry for Scott Parker because the team he adopted was ripped at the seams within a matter of weeks. Alan Pearce sold off at least 4 or 5 of his best players.
Yeah,
I mean, I thought they can't score goals.
Yeah, exactly, and it is what it is. I mean, and to score goals, you've got to have a good creative midfield player.
Yeah, and I don't think Burnley have that.
And he probably recognises the fact, and that's why he sets his team up like he sets them up.
Not to lose goals.
Not to lose goals, yeah, and obviously they're getting booed. I mean, I rip Simon to bits about. I mean, it's same. I could say it on here. I hope you Burnley fans enjoyed it yesterday because you haven't seen any blinking goals over at Turf Moor, but you seen 4 here yesterday for £6. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But joking apart, they're booing him off. But it's wrong because it's circumstances. There's got to be a balance in a team. And I said this to my players before I picked the team yesterday, before I named it. There's got to be a balance. You can't have in your midfield, you can't have, let's just say, for instance, you can't have, 3 lads in midfield of Alice Oren's calibre. No. Because it won't work.
You've got to have... You can't have an Ellis Oren, a Ben Thompson and a Michael Gervin.
No.
Too much alignment. There's got to be a Callum Hewitt or a Ryan Siddle in there to break things up.
100%. That's exactly right. So you've got to get the balance. And the other thing, I know they've got, and I won't hold this against them yesterday because it didn't happen yesterday, right? But in the Daisy Hill game, it happened, where they're not turning up. The basics, the basics that you get right is when you turn up for a game. The first thing you've got to do for any game of football, you've got to prepare right. All time. You know that you've got a game on Saturday from your last game. You haven't got a midweek game, so you should be planning your week as well as your business, but you should still plan your week in terms of preparing for the game and making sure you're ready for the game because that's what you do. You play football on a Saturday. It's only the same as me. I've got businesses to run. I've got Bake-Up Borough to run as well. But I prepare my mind all week and I think, right, I don't care what's happening at FedEx or anything like that. When it gets to Thursday, I am focused on football. And if you ask Simon Holding when he walks in here and starts saying to me, have you been paid off FedEx? Have you that? I say, shut up, Simon. My focus is now on football. I don't want to know. I'm not interested because I focus my mind on football and get ready. Now, this is what I'm saying because that is the job I do on a Saturday. Yeah. So you've got to focus your mind and you've got to be prepared right. Now, if you're prepared right, and then you come into the game on the Saturday, you've got to execute the basic thing, what you've got to do before you start passing and receiving a ball. You've got to put the work rate in. And if you're not prepared to put the work rate in, you're failing. You know, there's a sign that says it under our changing room. If you never fail until you stop trying.
Yeah.
So you've got all that to put in, and when you don't do that, then you're on an hiding to nothing. And this is my point. This is where it's all about attitudes and application. Now, if you've got players that just think they can wreck up at this level of football and just turn up, it won't happen, and that's when you'll get the issues. And I'm trying to say to my lads, you know, I even mentioned some names yesterday that are now successful managers at the minute in the Football League, but they've all been a part of me somewhere when I've been part of the management team at a club where they've been at. You know, you look at Darren Moore, he were at Doncaster Rovers when I were at Doncaster, he were a player at Doncaster Rovers, centre half.
Yeah.
You know, he's never successful, but he'll be saying the same things to his players, right? What he were getting told off me and Curry Dixon at Doncaster Rovers. He'll be there repeating that and why he'll be trying to get the best out of his players at Port Vale, and why Port Vale are doing quite well.
Well, he'll be saying it simply because he knows it's an ingredient in what he's doing, which works.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and managers don't suffer.
Take it out. He's gonna say exactly what you and Kerry were saying, because he knows whatever was going on at the time or where else he's been in his career, it's worked.
Exactly. And then you've got on a flip side to that, you've got Phil Parkinson at Wrexham doing well at Wrexham, but he was a player when I was, you know, with Frank and Martin Dobson at Bury. He was a young player coming through at Bury. You know, the same thing, but he's gone through his playing career and now he's a successful manager.
Yeah.
You know, so these lads that we've got here, you know, who like I said, and you know, certain players in our squad, you know, that maybe one day Gareth Wager, Callum Hewitt, them two kind of players might want to become a manager, but they've got to understand that they've got to instill in the players that they'll have at their disposal, be giving them the same advice and want the same players to deliver with the same mental aptitude and preparation.
Yeah.
And that's how they've got to be. Some of these players think they're hard done by, and you can't talk to them and they think, well, we did all right. All right's not good enough. Not if you want to challenge. We're not here just to make the numbers up. We're here to challenge.
Not when you mentioned it at the start of the show when we were talking about yesterday's game. Standards. They've set the bar. So when we are criticising or come back to them or reports in the paper or we speak on the Rewind show about standards dropping, we're only doing that because your players, the special ones, set the bar high. And that's where it needs to be.
Correct.
So,
correct. And going back to just to finalise in the supporter situation, you know, they've got to encourage. I'm not saying they don't do it Bacup, because they do it Bacup. I mean, you know, they're fantastic.
The away support as well is brilliant, Brent.
Yeah, they're fantastic. But what I'm trying to get at is that, you know, some clubs and some support, they start turning on individuals and having and they don't see the bigger picture. You know, it's easy to turn on people that you're expecting to win your games of football. But I look at it this way, you know, let's take Bacup Borough. You know, we depend, and we shouldn't do, but we do. We depend on, we obviously depend on Toby. It is what it is. He's the number 9. But there'll be times when Toby's not doing it, and it's not because of his attitude or lack of it. It's because sometimes he's not getting the service he wants. Sometimes it's not coming to him. Sometimes he's just making runs, and it's just pointless making them runs because the ball somebody doesn't see that run and doesn't give him the ball at the right time. There's all sorts of things, but supporters don't. I'm not saying I shouldn't use that really because this isn't happening at Bacup, but I'm trying to use a comparison.
It can very quickly happen.
Yeah. You know that them sorts of things can happen, and listen, and that's why I'm saying that you've got to look at the bigger picture. And I think sometimes the beauty of this show, because I won't hold back and I'll say it, whether people agree with me or they don't agree with me, but if they want to listen, I'm being honest on here, and I'm kind of being honest to my players and honest to the supporters, and I'm saying it as I think how it unfolded and why it unfolded. Now, there was a difference yesterday in terms of attitude and application and determination than what there were at Daisy Hill. Total difference. But the fact of the matter is, and it improved us because we got a point yesterday, whereas we got nothing at Daisy Hill.
I think that's one of the reasons why we probably don't have supporters, calling for players to be dropped, and is because we have this show and we're totally transparent with what's going on at the club. So there's no need to be second guessing because it's coming straight from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, and I think that is important. Sometimes it frustrates the life out of me when managers, even at the higher level, don't be honest and don't come out with things and I'm not saying that they throw people under a bus. I don't think they do. No. They should do that. That's not about that. But I think they've got to be a bit more, a bit more, because if you're not transparent, if you're not upfront, people will. It's the human race. They'll second guess. Yeah, they'll guess and they'll think this is what's happening, and then it paints an even bigger, badder picture. It's the same with this Rashford situation at Man United. There's more to it, and the only people who know what there is to it is the people that's close to it, Man United, that's in on the inside, and they'll all know what's going on. Yeah. What you read in paper. I tell Brian will come and report to me. I'll say, you've been reading that Beano, haven't you? What do you mean? That Sun. Stop reading that Sun. It's a freaking load of lies. They spend more time, that Sun, paying people back because they've blinking shafted people, and then people have double whammied them and gone back and said it's wrong what they're saying, and they end up doing that. So it's Beano. It just tells lies. Don't read it. But there's something, and it'd be good and refreshing for a manager in a way to come out, but probably the reason why some managers aren't coming out, even Rubin's not really come out weird at the minute, because there's obviously what nobody will know about. I think somewhere along the line there'll be an underlying personal issue massively, which is affecting him, and people are trying to work with him to try and mentally get out, and we don't know what's going on behind closed doors. And the press will be second guessing, and the press will be ripping him and putting false statements in the paper that'll be so wide off the mark. People read the press and they believe it, so that gets carried and people think that's true. You've got social media platforms like linking Twitter and TikTok that put videos up and linking, tell the wrong things, and so they think it's true. But when it all comes out, and if a book were to come out and thing it, it'll be something more than that. It could be seriously mental health. Let's not forget, people like Gary Speed, God rest his soul, is not with us. Why is he not with us? Because of serious mental health situation. Yeah. People like blinking Clark Carlisle jumped himself in front of a bleeding wagon, for God's sake.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Serious blinking mental health issues.
And with the Gary Speed, going back to Gary, on the Saturday afternoon, he were on Football Focus with Alan Shearer, I believe. He was laughing and smiling. And within less than 24 hours, they find him in his garage.
Exactly, yeah. So people don't know. People are second guessing, and but there'll be definitely something that the club know, that the managers of the club know, and they're trying to work in-house with him and trying to do the best, but they will never come out and say, because it's not right to say, they don't want to say, it's personal. They'll leave that to the player when he's good and ready, but people should lay off, because you don't know until you know the facts, what is behind it. And people, sometimes good managers, I think, and I think this, work with people, and I try to do that, with people. If people are upfront with me here, I will go that extra mile to work with them and help them, without saying anything.
Definitely.
I don't need to say anything. I've got to work with people. I mean, in a different way, and it weren't mental health. Even Ross Mallinson, when he were going in the fire brigade, I just worked with him the best because he wanted that job and he wanted to do trade. So I just worked with him. I didn't dismiss him from the squad or anything like that.
No.
I worked with him as much as I could. But there then comes a time where, from a club's perspective and from his perspective, it was never going to happen that he could be the number one centre half every week when his shift pattern is going to dictate.
But he was still in the squad and he was still part of the team that played in the final, went to both finals. So he's got medals to show.
Correct. 100%, Steve. And that's how you've got to be. And that's why I think managing, and this is one reason why I think managing and coaching is totally different, because the biggest attribute that a manager should carry is man management. Sometimes you can lose that when you don't suffer fools and it happens. But in the main, and this is why I always firmly believe as well, that I think one of the biggest items that a referee starting off his career within the county FAs should be man management, because it's the same principle. When that whistle blows at 3 o'clock or 7:45, that man or that girl in the middle is responsible for 22 players and how they're managing them.
How many times have we heard that from? We've mentioned it a few times, but Keith Hackett, friend of the show, ex main man at the the Referees Association, said man management skills. They should be number one in the manual for refereeing.
100%.
Be number one, because if you can manage a game, you're 80% there.
Correct. And they're all, like I've said before, Steve, you get 22 players on the pitch. They're not all bloody choir boys, are they?
All different characters.
They're all different characters, Big Connect. And then some, I'm not going to mention no names, but when Dave Felgate were here, seriously, at one club on Merseyside, he were coming off the pitch and they said they were threatening to threaten to shoot him. This is what you're dealing with. Seriously. So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
These are the characters that's in your team. You don't know what you've got. They're coming to play football at the end of the day, but they could be, they could be right at your house with a blinky sawed-off shotgun.
Yeah. I want to just mention one more thing before we leave. He was listening yesterday to the commentary. David Nuttall, season ticket holder, swapped Burnley for Bay Cup. He's been quite ill at the moment. He didn't make yesterday's game. Recovering at home. I think they took him into hospital, but now he's back home. So we just wish David Nuttall all the best.
Yeah, all the best, Dave. Yeah, he's been a great supporter of Bay Cup. It won't matter whether he's a supporter of Bay Cup or not. We don't want to see anybody blinking.
No, I think he's on the mend, but he'll be convalescing for a few months now. Yeah,
all the best, David.
Right, Brent, I think that's a wrap. We got there in the end, take two. But
dear me, that was just enough time there. That's Dexter saying it's the end. There we go. So it must be the end. See you later, mate.